we talking about today, Rebecca?
We're going to talk about all things swing, understudy, and
standby.
All very roles that I thought were the same role. I always thought they just meant different, the same thing, but just different words for it. They all mean different things.
Yes.
In theater.
So the reason this conversation came up is we went to see Wicked on Broadway, and the night that we went, one of the people who were performing in the role of Glinda, was it that one?
Glinda.
Was a standby. And it was listed in the program that way. And Rebecca asked me, she's like, "Oh, standby?" It's like, I've never, what is that? And honestly, to tell you the truth, I had not heard that either. I always thought it was a swing and an understudy. I'd never heard the term standby before. So, of course, we had to do a little bit of research, and we had to bring that to you so that you know what we know. So here is the difference according to Google, which is where we go for all of our resources, right? So most of the time, obviously, when you are hearing any press on something, it's usually about the stars. And very rarely do you get also the opportunity to hear about somebody who was a stand-in or a swing or a understudy. But there have been two occasions lately who've done that. We're going to define it first, and then we're going to talk about that. So the difference between a swing is usually, which is weird because when I went to New York and met the girl for the choreography, she was an onstage performer, which is really interesting. But the definition is the swing is an offstage performer who is responsible for covering any number of ensemble tracks, sometimes as many as 12. It does say later on in the definition that they're usually not on stage. So an understudy is a performer who is cast in the ensemble who is responsible for covering a supporting or a lead role. And then a standby is an offstage performer whose sole responsibility is to cover the lead, usually the star, in a production. So swing, not usually on stage, usually covers up to 12 other performers, whether they're ensemble or whatever. Understudy, on stage, but has the responsibility to also be ready to perform for either a supporting or a lead, and a standby offstage performer who is only about the lead. So I think definitely a swing sounds the hardest.
Because it's one thing as a lead to be playing the same character, same way, same set, same place, every single night. But to be like, oh, next week you're playing this character. Right. Or even tonight you're playing this character, and to be able to remember it all.
Yeah, in 15 minutes. You're going to play this instead of that. I know you were playing this, but now you're playing this.
Yeah. And even Hugh Jackman recently, that was in the news, where there was I believe it was a swing, who stood in for
Sutton Foster,
because she got a bad COVID test. And he just was hyping her up, saying, us as actors, we got to rehearse. The swings are standing on the outside, taking notes. Yeah. When they're still learning their part.
They might not even get to rehearse it with it. I mean, honestly, they just have to be ready to go. They have to study that person and know what they do and step into it so that it doesn't mess up the other people who have been rehearsing for months.
And I wonder how much you're already trying to fight your audience being like, oh, it's not Sutton Foster. Right. Or, oh, it's not the person I thought it was going to be.
Yep, because I told you when I went to see Dear Evan that was the thing. The rest of the people that I was with were like, we don't hardly even want to see it anymore. And you even felt that way a little bit. You didn't even know the person, and you were like,
I bet the other Glinda I didn't know existed was better.
Right. We have these preconceived notions of how we're going to come in and what we're going to see. And just because they're cast right there, the idea that an understudy or a stand-in or a swing would do it makes us think we're not getting the best. And honey, I'm just thinking maybe sometimes it is the best.
Yeah.
Because anybody who can step in and do a role without rehearsing it, kudos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. It's like when we're doing a play here, sometimes it takes 6 weeks just to get people to learn their lines, get their characters down, know everything to be able to perform it on opening night.
Yep.
6 weeks.
Yep.
We're giving these people nothing.
Yep.
Just, okay, hope you got it. Let's go.
Yeah.
You better be brilliant. It's crazy.
Insane.
And then you were just telling me about something that happened in Into the Woods.
Like very recently on Broadway, halfway through or into Act 1, they came over the air and said, due to illness, Cinderella will now be played by the woman who is playing a stepsister. And now I believe it was a swing, or it could have been a standby.
An understudy.
An understudy is now going to play the role of the stepsister. And this woman rushes, like obviously she's off stage getting changed, rushes on stage to now play the rest of the show as Cinderella.
Yeah.
So it's not even like you get to start from the beginning of the rehearsal that you thought of. You're like, okay, halfway through, where is she? And it was funny because I think the first line that she got to say is she was like sprawled out on the floor and someone came up and she's like, hey, how are you doing? She goes, just trying to catch my breath.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's amazing.
And of course the audience went crazy because most audiences love that kind of stuff because it just kind of puts you into the notion that we're all human and this is amazing what that person does. You know, we have had several occasions like that. Well, I don't usually have understudies. I have had them more lately. I had one last year for Beauty and the Beast for Belle, and we shared roles for Chip, which would make it almost like it was an understudy, except we gave them equal numbers of performances for both of them because I felt like with kids, they can't really rise above it and perform sometimes the same way that an adult can, and so I just shared the role for them.
But your Holiday Inn.
But my Holiday Inn, so this is what happened for Holiday Inn. We had Peter Kenneth, who was playing the lead and got the flu bad. And he said, I'm got a medicine, but I'm not going to be able to perform. And so we pulled Jason Eisentraut, who happens to be playing our Don Lockwood in this year's Singing in the Rain. But we pulled him in. He had been in the ensemble, and we said,
so he would be a swing.
So, but he didn't know it.
But
so he hasn't.
Swing.
Yeah, so he hasn't had the chance to learn it, right? And so but he's been around, and so he at least is familiar with the songs and stuff like that. And so we worked him, and CJ, who was our stage manager at that time, who had all the notes down, she's working him and saying, okay, this is where you go here, and this is what you do, and these are your lines. And she'd been working him a lot of hours.
Wow.
And I came in, and I'm like, Jason, you don't look so good. And he goes, I don't know, can I have a blanket for a second? I mean, and literally he had been sweating up a storm because he's dancing and singing and working really hard. And I was like, you need a blanket? And he said, maybe I could just lay down for a second. And he went over and he sat on the front pew, and I looked at CJ and I was like, he's got it too. It's like, this is not working. So we went down again. And so our music director, Wesley Brown, is the one who ended up playing that part that night. But because of that, there are a lot of people who say, now, are you more convinced now? Should you always have a swing or an understudy? But people, honestly, it's like sometimes it's all I can do to get a whole cast.
Right.
So I don't have enough people to do swings and understudies. I tried to this time. I asked somebody to do it, but they didn't want to take it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to say I'm going to understudy that part or I'm going to swing it. But man, I think they're the ones that get the most kudos.
Yeah.
So
because of how much time and effort they have to put into it.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And how challenging. And sometimes you don't even get to perform.
Wow. Right, because there's no reason you would say, oh, by the way, I'm going to give you these 2 shows. No, it's going to be...
I actually did that one time. When we did Little Women, I actually said that every understudy would get at least 1 performance.
Wow, but that's unique. Like, that's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And it did not create a wonderful experience. There was a little bit of competition and a little bit of, well, I don't really need to miss that performance. I'm okay. I can perform
from
like that
those
from who had the part. They did not want to give it up, and I understand that too. And so overall, it's just people. There are politics that you just have no idea what goes into balancing everything and making sure that people feel the importance that they're supposed to feel and not want to feel that they are being mistreated or not appreciated or any of those things. But yet I have to appreciate everybody, because it's not all about the stage manager or the star. It's about the ensemble person who, only crosses the stage for that one little time. It's just as much about them, because I need that person to cross the stage, or there's not, that main point of the play doesn't come across, right? And that is my biggest battle. I think if anybody asked me what my biggest battle was, that would be it. Is to let everybody know that the whole production is what matters, and that the tiniest part. I feel like a Dr. Seuss poem needs to come on,
A character is a character, no
matter how small. Yeah, so I feel like I need to write a new song or play about that. And the joy that you bring to the audience, it's so
nothing
great.
Like it.
So
yeah.
And then maybe you go to the director and say, you know what, I don't know if this is challenging enough for me. Could I also be swing? Could I study all the guys' parts?
Being willing to even try it and to put in the extra effort to learn other people's parts. I think it just makes you a better actor.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
So I tell people all the time, because there are people who say, if I don't get this role, I'm not going to do it. And then there are several roles that then they don't get. And so they have a period of time that they are not acting. And I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day. The problem with not acting is you're not getting any better. So just the fact that you are on stage and you are sharpening your skills and keeping fresh with all the things, the singing, the dancing, even if it wasn't a challenge to you, it's keeping your skills sharp.
Yeah.
You will be now a little bit behind the next person who maybe had the same skills as you before, but now they have done the last two roles and they've kept them fresh, even if it's only an ensemble. I'm telling you, it makes a difference. That's the reason some people never catch up to other people.
Wow. And even thinking back to Sutton Foster, how she chose to be, was it an understudy?
An understudy.
In a play instead of a lead in another, because she wanted that specific character to play. So if you're going for a lead, you don't get that lead, and they offer you another character, if that's a character you've never played, go for it. Like you're going to be a fresher, better actress for it.
That being said, I totally understand that sometimes life circumstances makes it so you can't put in that kind of time for that particular role at that time. So we get it. Just come back. Come back next time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if this encouraged you to go for a swing or an understudy or a standby. They are definitely the unsung heroes of Broadway.
Amen.
Yeah?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So until next time, this is just me.
And me.
Talking to you
From the wings.